Hurricane Irma sounds alarms across Caribbean and Florida. The northeastern Caribbean dug in Tuesday evening as Hurricane Irma, a Category 5 monster spinning off historic winds, bore down on its way to what forecasters said was an increasingly likely charge at Florida by the weekend. The National Weather Service predicted life-threatening hazards and severe damage beginning as early as Wednesday in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands as Irma's sustained winds of 185 miles per hour inched toward the highest on record, the 190-mile-per-hour pummeling that Hurricane Allen gave the Caribbean, northern Mexico and southern Texas in 1980. Irma, which hit Category 5, the strongest there is, on Tuesday, is a potentially catastrophic storm, the Weather Service said. It is almost certain to produce complete roof and wall failures, destruction of mobile homes, wind-launched airborne projectiles, snapped and uprooted trees, inaccessible roads and bridges and widespread power and communications outages, forecasters warned. States of emergency were in effect up and down the eastern Caribbean and already across all of Florida on Tuesday as Irma made its way toward the Leewards, a chain of small islands that includes Barbados, Grenada, and Martinique. Its next stops would be the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico by Wednesday, followed by the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba and, most likely, Florida, where folks need to be preparing immediately, said Heather Tesh, a meteorologist for the Weather Channel. Bottled water, flashlights, batteries and other staples were flying off store shelves across Puerto Rico on Tuesday. Long lines snaked from gas stations in Gurabo, a small city 45 minutes southeast of the capital, San Juan. Classes were canceled, and schools were being stocked with supplies for refugees as Gov. Ricardo Rossello pleaded with residents to take Hurricane Harvey as a lesson and evacuate their homes. The decisions that we make in the next couple of hours can make the difference between life and death, Rossello said. This is an extremely dangerous storm. Puerto Rico's infrastructure has deteriorated greatly during a decade-long recession. Ricardo Ramos, chief executive of Perfil, the island's power company, told Whip Republic TV that some areas will spend 3-4 months without electricity, Telemundo Puerto Rico reported. Rossello said President Donald Trump had approved an emergency declaration freeing up federal money for preparations. In Florida, Governor Rick Scott said Trump had approved a similar order as residents raided the stores and all tourists on the low-lying keys were ordered to evacuate starting at sunrise Wednesday. I've been to 4 or 5 different stores today, said Kagan Smith, who was shopping for plywood at a Lowe's hardware store in Fort Myers. This is us just biting the bullet and buying really expensive plywood to protect our house, Smith told NBC station WBBH. I spent about an hour and a half finding water yesterday. We've got 5 cases of water. Forecasters stressed that Irma's path couldn't be precisely predicted, saying the average error in tropical cyclone forecasts can veer by as much as 225 miles in the space of 5 days. But should worst-case projections be realized, Irma would be only the 4th Category 5 hurricane ever to have made landfall on the U.S. mainland. And even if Irma skirts the mainland, residents in the southeast can still expect a rotten weekend. The system's 185-mile-per-hour hurricane force winds extended 60 miles from the center late Tuesday afternoon, and tropical storm force winds of 75 miles per hour and higher were being flung as far as 175 miles, a destructive footprint more than 350 miles across. Scott activated 100 members of the Florida Air and Army National Guards and said Tuesday night that 7,000 Guard members would be reporting for duty by Friday. This storm has the potential to devastate this state, and you have to take this seriously, he said. The governor told reporters earlier Tuesday that Florida is known for preparing and doing a great job with disasters, but, we have no idea what's in store. We'll have to pray for the best, he said. The hope would be that this thing would dissipate and just go into the Atlantic, but we've got to prepare for the worst. The National Football League, meanwhile, said the season-opening game between the Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wouldn't be played in Miami as scheduled on Sunday. It said the game could be moved to a neutral site or rescheduled for later in the season in Miami. Several South Florida counties switched into emergency mode on Tuesday, planning evacuations, school closings and setting up shelters as Hurricane Irma, a powerful Category 5 storm, churned toward the Caribbean. With maximum sustained winds reaching 180 miles per hour, Irma is on track to hit the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico in the coming days. After that, the storm is expected to continue west and possibly slam South Florida or another part of the continental United States. There is an increasing chance of seeing some impacts from Irma in the Florida Peninsula and the Florida Keys later this week and this weekend, the National Hurricane Center said on Tuesday morning. Authorities are preparing for Irma with Hurricane Harvey's devastation fresh in their minds. Miami-Dade County Mayor Carlos Jimenez signed a declaration of emergency to cope with the threat. He said evacuations of special needs residents will begin Wednesday, and others might be ordered to head out of town. Jimenez ordered all county offices to be closed on Thursday and Friday. Schools will be closed on Thursday and Friday and all school activities have been canceled from Wednesday night through Friday. Neighboring Broward County was coordinating plans for 43 shelters that can accommodate up to 33,000 people. County Mayor Barbara Sheriff told reporters. Sheltering operations were expected to begin on Thursday, she said. Broward School Superintendent Robert Runcie said closings will give authorities time to prepare shelters at the schools. Given the severity of this storm and an abundance of caution, and to give our parents and our community sufficient time to adequately prepare, we will be suspending and closing schools on Thursday and Friday of this week, Runcie said. Monroe County, in which Key West is located, issued a mandatory evacuation of visitors, tourists and non-residents starting 7 a.m. Wednesday. The county also announced a mandatory evacuation of residents starting at 7 p.m. Wednesday. There will be no roadblocks to prevent people from entering the Keys before the storm to take care of property and help evacuate family members, the county said. But all residents should heed the resident evacuation orders. The Keys SPCA said it is evacuating all animals out of the Keys, and officials at county animal shelters are directing residents to evacuate with their pets. The storm's exact path still remains unclear. But after seeing news reports about water and food shortages in Texas last week as Harvey blew through, Floridians want to be prepared, and scrambled to assemble supplies. The Costco in Royal Palm Beach, Florida hadn't even opened yet, but already the line to get inside stretched around the parking lot. Good luck finding supplies for Hurricane Irma. And so, Flo, Daniel Scroggins, who posted video of the scene, said Tuesday on Twitter. The possibility of the storm led to a mad run on bottled water on Tuesday morning in Clearwater, Florida, according to resident Carrie Hart. She said that employees at a Publix supermarket tried to calm agitated shoppers after the store ran out of cases of water. She said the store expects to have more water tonight. Another Publix in Davie, near Fort Lauderdale, posted a sign with bad news for any shoppers looking to buy water. "Sorry, no water at this time." The sign read, "Waiting for deliveries. Estimated time of arrival is unknown." Banks, too, saw a crush of people looking to withdraw cash. Miami resident Alex Batista said that a Chase Bank in Miami had long lines and no parking ahead of the storm. "The banks are full of people getting money," Batista said. "It's crazy." Still others flocked to Home Depot or other hardware stores in search of plywood, which can be used to board up windows. More than 5,000 people, military active duty personnel, civilians, contractors and families, based at Naval Air Station Key West have received mandatory evacuation orders. The officials familiar with the evacuation plan say approximately 50 to 60 essential personnel will stay to man the installation's essential functions. Navy officials told CNN the aircraft will be moving inland from Jacksonville and Mayport, Florida. Submarines are preparing to or have evacuated from Naval Submarine Base Kings Bay in Georgia, according to several Navy officials. Navy spokesman Bill Doherty said Naval Station Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, is making preparations for Irma and will shelter in place for the storm as it passes north of Cuba. The USS Iwo Jima and USS New York were scheduled to leave Mayport, Florida as soon as Tuesday evening and head to Norfolk to load up with disaster supplies and be on standby for any request for assistance following Hurricane Irma, according to two U.S. Navy officials. U.S. Air Force spokesman Colonel Patrick Ryder said the Air Force is preparing plans to relocate the majority of F-16 aircraft from Homestead Air Reserve Base in southern Florida. The 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron based at Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi, commonly known as the Hurricane Hunters, is scheduled to fly later this week to help monitor the storm's development, Ryder said. Air Force search and rescue teams that were assisting in Texas have returned to their home stations to recover and prepare for a potential response to Hurricane Irma, Ryder said. Florida Gov. Rick Scott declared a state of emergency for the entire state of Florida and called on residents to prep for the worst. His office said that he has activated 7,000 Guard members for Friday. Every family has got to get ready, he said Tuesday. 3 days of water per person, 3 days of food, as well as medicine, fuel, batteries, and more. On Twitter, Senator Marco Rubio called on Florida residents to consider plans to evacuate, find shelter, secure their homes and obtain the needed medicines ahead of the coming storm. At a minimum, #Florida will feel strong impact of #Hurricane Irma later this week. We know what we need to do to get ready, he wrote. Former Gov. Jeb Bush also took to Twitter to issue an all-caps warning about the hurricane. Get prepared, South Florida, he wrote. Florida is known for preparing and doing a great job with disasters, Scott added. We have no idea what's in store. We'll have to pray for the best. The hope would be this thing will dissipate and just go out into the Atlantic, but we've got to prepare for the worst. News.com, CNN.